Hi, in this video I'd like to talk to you about the book Extreme Ownership by Jocko Willink, which I read about a month ago and which I really enjoyed. This is the second book, or probably a third book by Jacko, because the first one was Discipline Equals Freedom, and I haven't read that one yet. Weirdly, I started with the third book, which is The Dichotomy of Leadership, and I've got this book reviewed already, so you can check out the link in the description of this video. And yeah, so first I read that. I really liked that, The Dichotomy of Leadership, and that one talked more about the specific dichotomies, but I've got to say it was really similar, like the whole structure of the book and, you know, the style of writing and stories in the book. It was really similar to this one, Extreme Ownership. However, this one was the first book on this topic, on the topic of extreme ownership. And what extreme ownership is basically, is simply put, taking responsibility for everything. And no matter, well, I can tell you this perfectly in the example Jacko gives in his book. So they were doing a really important mission in Ramadi in Iraq, and you know, it was the tug of war, and there were Navy SEALs, there were US military, there was Iraqi soldiers. It was like in the heart of the insurgents, the Al-Qaeda fighters, the ISIS fighters, and a horrendous battle broke out. And in this, you know, whole confusion and you know, aggression of the war, a really horrible mistake happened, and really horrendous gunfight broke down. And it wasn't a gunfight between, you know, the friendly forces and insurgents. It was actually the fight was actually between the friendly forces and the friendly forces. It was friendly fire, fratricide. It was really horrible, and in that battle, one Iraqi soldier died. Some other men were wounded, and as soon as you know, Jacko came back from this mission to their camp, he found out that, you know, the whole like chief commander and investigating officers were coming down to their place, their camp, and they told them to shut down all operations and prepare a report. So Jacko did that, and he was preparing the report. He outlined, you know, exactly what happened, what mistakes everyone did, you know, how this, you know, horrible thing happened. And Jacko knew that these men from the military leadership were coming to find somebody to blame for this. You know, somebody had to pay for this mistake. Somebody had to lose their job for this. And as Jacko was preparing the report, he couldn't find the answer to the question, you know, whose fault this really was. You know, who was at fault? And he kept asking himself this single question, and just minutes before the actual presentation was about to happen, he found out he, this creeping realization came to him that it was his fault. He was the commander of the friendly forces and it was his responsibility. And so when the briefing actually started, he said, he simply said that he asked the question, whose fault is it? And one by one, his SEAL soldiers started, getting up, and first one said, no, it was my fault because I shot the guy, right? And Jacko said, no, it's not your fault. No, another SEAL stood up and said, it's my fault because I didn't keep a hold of the Iraqi soldiers who were assigned to me. And Jacko said, no, it's not your fault. Then another SEAL got up and another, and they were all saying it's my fault, and Jacko said, no, it's not your fault, not any single one of your fault. It's my fault because I'm the commander and I was responsible for all this. And so this, I think, story sums up perfectly what extreme ownership is all about, because it shows the principle, and it really also shows that because Jacko performed all his operation with this extreme ownership mindset, his troops really got that from him and incorporated it into their own lives. And you can clearly see that in this example, because they were all taking ownership of their mistakes. They weren't blaming anyone else but themselves for what happened. And yeah, well, this book is basically about war stories like this, and about principles of extreme ownership, and also planning, like military planning and discipline. It all, in my opinion, really comes to fruition when you read this book, because he just gives these examples, like these simple rules, like a simple cover and move, and other rules like this, and he explains it with military examples, why this is how it was good. It was a good rule to follow for his troops in military, in combat. And then he also gives examples of these rules being really useful in business. So I really recommend this book. I enjoyed it. The stories are great. Jacko has a really good style of writing, and I think there's definitely a tremendous value in reading it. So I'll put a link into this book in the description, and I hope you enjoy this. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.